You're finding me down in the deepest part of France, a place called Limoges. It's kind of the area. It's about a 7.5 hour drive from Calais. I'm actually here at Secret Garden. Secret Garden is kind of one of those lakes that's not really on the radar, but it is on the radar. It's probably been made most famous by Steve Briggs, and you know, this is one of those social waters. It's small, it's intimate, it's shallow. The deepest part is about 6, maybe 7 foot down at the down wall. The rest of it is all 3-4 foot deep, running up to the shallow area where I'm fishing. The shallow area here has about maybe 2.5 foot of water, you know, 3 foot in places. But it's an interesting topography up there. Looks like he's done. There's 2 big fountains, not fountains, but aerator pumps blowing out water from the bottom, which oxygenates the lake. A couple of streams that run in from the surrounding area, and the water comes in that it's quite cold, which keeps the temperature of this lake quite low compared to other lakes. We're here, it's late April, and by the time we leave it will be just turning May. So, you know, it's a dodgy time to come to France. I have pals who are further up in southern Brittany this week, and their fish have started spawning on their lake. Talking to the owner here, he reckons that the fish here spawn much later than other lakes because of the amount of cold water that comes in and the constant flow. It takes a long time for the water temperature to get up to the right level for them to spawn here, so we have that in our favour. Driving down here on the Friday and Saturday morning, the temperature was pleasant. It was about 15 degrees tops, but you know, we'd come in on the back of the previous week being an absolute washout. Torrential rain here in France, low temperatures, more winter-like than spring-like, and just not very pleasant. And when we were driving down through France, every lake, every river was chocolate brown and in flood. So there was obviously quite a substantial amount of rain the previous week, which the owner was able to tell us had happened here also. Saturday, 2 o'clock is the start time on these lakes, and when we arrived, we were able to set up, get ourselves organised. They have these special sort of tent systems in situ on the lake. There's 3 of them in total for people who want to just camp out without having to use a bivvy. They do it all for you. These huge big tents are sort of permanently erected here in the swims, and all you have to do is chuck your gear in and get fishing, which was exactly what we did. On arrival, I walked down, it was starting to spit rain, and I walked down just to have a look and get an idea, a feel of what I was going to be fishing into, and I noticed some bubblers in the corner there. So I put a rod down there, the other 2 rods in other spots, trying things out. Within an hour, I had my first fish on the bank, a 31 common, and then shortly after that I had a 47 4, something like that. I can't remember the exact weight, and that was the start of a hectic sort of 24-30 hours of fishing, where I had about 7 or 8 fish, up to 54.8. great. My biggest one so far. Yeah, happy days. Coming to the same bait. I'm just being consistent with the bait now, little and often, and that seems to be working. Right, I'm fishing with two of my best pals, Rob, who's also a team member at Nutrabaits, and Colin, who is the reason why we're here. Is we're down here celebrating a significant birthday for Colin, and we are having a social, and this is one thing that this lake has oodles of. If you want a place where you can have a you know, that pleasant time of socializing and fishing, just at the back of the first swim that down there, which is less than sort of 30 yards down, is a lovely house with all mod cons, showers, toilets, beds if you want to sleep in them, snooker table. It's got TV, it's got everything that you need to keep, you know, yourself comfortable while you're fishing. You could, you know, if the weather was rough at all, you could take shelter in there and be nice and safe. But the facilities are second to none, and as I said, it makes it a really nice socializing lake, which is why we picked this place. Now, for the stock of fish that's in here, there's apparently about 100 fish, give or take. There's about 5 or 6 fish over 60. The biggest going 74, I believe, is the record that it's held at. Under that, there's, as I say, 5 other 60-pound plus fish. They're all sort of low 60s though, you know, 60 to 63, I think. After that, there's about 15 different 50s, and then most of the fish are above 30 pound and more likely to be hovering into the 40 pound mark. So I've had a rake of 39s now, and I've had a rake of 48s. I'm teetering on both edges of, but you know, it's just a phenomenal fishery. Rob's had fish to 50, Colin's had fish to 48, 12. So it really has an incredible stock of fish, and when I say they fight, oh my God, they will pull the arm off you. You know, you often hear people say, I fought the fish for 10, 15, 20 minutes. The reality is it's usually over in a few minutes. It just feels longer. But genuinely, these fish here are supercharged. And that's purely because of the water quality is so rich in oxygen that these fish just don't have to give up. They've got loads, oodles of power, and they really bend the carbon. One thing that, you know, when people travel to France, and it happens all the time, we see it all the time, we hear about it, and I have mates who do it, is they come to France with this thing of, I'm in France now, the fish are bigger, and I'm going big with my baiting. And it is probably the single biggest mistake most anglers make. The bottom line is, if you put a lot of bait out there, you can't take it back out if it's not working. So you better go in initially looking for a bite at a time. And if you see a pattern emerging where if you increase the bait a little bit by little, you get a better result, then you continue to do that and build the swim slowly. Nutrabaits homemade wafter. Very happy. Likewise, if you're just still getting the odd bite, you're not getting a real pattern or a rhythm going, then you need to stay backed off and just fish for a bite at a time. 48 and change. Actually, I thought this was much bigger. But what I will say is these are probably some of the, you know, typically of these types of waters, some of the most pressured fish. They're as pressured as any English water, and if not more so, because, you know, 365 days of the year, there's somebody on this venue fishing. Lines out, baits out, and bait going out, and the fish being caught and under pressure. They become super rig shy, super human shy, and, you know, it's just one of those things that people have this expectation because it's France, big carp, French carp, that they've got to go in straight away and whack out 10 kilo of bait and sit on it. On some fisheries that will work, tends to be the more hungry waters, but when you have small water fishing like this, small waters historically are much trickier than larger waters. The fish are under pressure, they know that you're there. The minute you arrive, they sense with the vibrations, because of such a small water, any noise that you make. it's going to be reflective of the way they behave. Another 48 pounder. Bait's working really well now, and I'm not complaining about another 48 pounder, but this makes it my 4th 48 pounder. Happy days. You can walk all the way around this lake, and most people who fish it that we've seen on videos have walked around the other side. They're in the bushes looking to see if they can see anything. They're throwing a bit of bait out, and to be honest with you, that's the first thing that I wouldn't do, and we haven't done. We have not walked the bank at all on the far side because we're fishing to that area. It's been a bit high pressure this week building up. Arrived and we had torrential rain on Saturday night into Sunday morning. Sunday it started to clear off around midday-ish, and then it's got hotter and hotter, but higher pressure, much more high pressure, and we feel that the fish have moved into the shelf line, and that's where we're picking up a lot of the fish. The last thing we want to do is be walking around throwing in bait over the top of their heads. So we've been using bait boats to bring in the baits, going at very low power, nice and quiet, stealth mode activated, and just, you know, a small morsel in the boat, just enough to give them that hit of putting their head down. And then we've been playing around, myself and Rob in particular have been making our own wafters recently with all the Nutrabaits ingredients and flavours, and we've been tweaking them, and we've been using small little pink wafters, and in fairness, they're going down a treat here. The fish are loving them, or not, because they keep getting caught. You know, it's noticeable since it's got red hot. Today was up to probably about 26 degrees. It was super hot today, and blue skies, unrelenting heat. You know, the last 24 hours it's slowed right off, and we've had a couple of fish out, but it's certainly not been like the first sort of 35 hours of fishing where it was just, you know, rods going off all around the lake, you know, the other 2 swims on a regular basis. It has calmed down somewhat. 2 things have happened there. Number one, the fish are acutely aware now that they're being angled for, so now they're on cautious mode with the higher pressure. And their need this time of year to heat themselves up, they're just doing a lot of cruising around and just getting that little bit of heat in them as best as they can. So, you know, you'd expect during the day when that heat is at its highest that you won't be catching, and it'll be sort of from now on in, it's just about to go dark. You'd expect the fish to be sort of coming on the feed during the dark hours and early morning. But last night, none of us saw a single fish, and yet we saw them in the hottest part of the day. Fish make the rules. You know, we can just only guess what we're doing is right or wrong. Had a run. Fish was on for a couple of minutes and then just hook pulled, one of them things. Put the rod straight back out, same spot, and about sort of an hour later this is gone, and it's 41 pound and a couple of ounces. But I'm well chuffed with this one. We were getting worried that the fish were grouping for spawning. I'm not sure they are now, because I'm not really seeing any evidence of it, but let's wait and see. My setup is very simple for France. I use exactly what I'm using at home. I've got 18 pound Fox Extra set on the reels. I'm using a bait boat. These fish are super strong. I don't need to go anything less. I need something that's strong and resilient and is just going to land anything that's swimming. I've got my 13-foot high S's, which may seem like overkill on a water like this, but I like you know, I'm so used to playing fish on these rods from small to big that I know exactly how they handle, and I'm happy and very comfortable to fish with them here. 48 pound 2. 48 pound 2 ounces. Rig wise, I've kept everything very, very basic, like really super basic. I've got an inline lead system, a little bit of tungsten tubing out the back of it to keep that flat on the bottom down there. I have a small sort of 6-7 inch rig with a size 5 wide gape. It's a super wide gape, fox hook. I find them absolutely cracking. The hook holes on them is just brilliant. As I said, I'm just using a small little wafter on a D-rig. Simple, nothing fancy, keeping it nice and basic, and it's been working very, very well. Come on. There we go. The last thing you want to do when you're fishing sort of a little bit of a distance away is where you've got water running in that's sort of 3 foot, and then it starts to shelve up and you're fishing into the 2 foot, 2.5 foot water. The last thing you want to do is you're having your line tight like a bowstring running in tight into that area, because the fish are going to come through and they're going to see your line or bounce into it, and they'll get very cagey, very spooky. You want everything nailed down that last bit. Now, whilst, I've got my tips in the air and it looks a little bit overkill for such a small water, but there's an absolute reason why I'm doing it. Because on the first night I realised with my rods lower, these fish are so powerful that they will go through every line and back out again and under and back out again. Having the rod tips that little bit higher means that I can play the fish and have a better chance of not picking up my other lines. Now, I first noticed that on a video with Steve Briggs was here, and he had his rod tips really, really high, and I thought, why are you doing that? That doesn't really make sense. It's too small a water for that, and you're not fishing that far out. But now I realise why he was doing it is because of the way the fish fight in this shallow water. They're going to pick up your other lines unless you're able to get that bit of a lift so that they can run under it. The other thing I've got on my rig, above the tubing, I've got one of these new pole position back leads that are brilliant for if you're a bait boat user like me. What it is, it's a pole position back lead. It's got a lead which swings on a hook. You hook it onto the line, but then it's got this rubberized insert, and you pull the line down tight into it and it locks in place. That means you can put it up maybe 5-6 feet above your rig, and when you're running the bait boat out, it doesn't slip, and it will then settle down 5 or 6 feet behind your hook bait area and your lead, which will pin that line down so that no fish in that vicinity are going to pick up on your line, and then it comes away. Now, the great thing is the minute you apply tension, the line pings out of the rubberized liner and it becomes a running back lead, and will then head on down, sit over the tubing into the lead, and you don't lose them. I've got all the other lads on them and they are blown away, the simplicity of them and how effective they are. The bait I'm using is a combination of different things. Now, working with Nutrabaits as I do, I get, sort of a lot of things to test out. Lots of new ideas are always in the pipeline at Nutrabaits. Jason and Richard are always coming up with new ideas of how to improve things and how to move things forward for the next iterations of baits. So I'm using a combination of things that, in fairness, aren't out on the shop floors yet, but technically they're the same baits, but they've been done a little bit differently. For example, I'm using these little pellet boilies. My ones I'm using are about 4 mil in size, but they're small. And what they've done is they've taken the same base mix of BFM and run it through a special extruder. It's the exact same bait as the boilie. Same flavour package, same base mix. Everything's the same, steamed the same exact way, but it comes out in this pelletized form. And what that means is, for the same handful, if I put 10 boilies in one hand and put the same weight of pellets, there's a lot more in the pellets. And because they're small, the carp feed on them differently and with greater gusto than the more cautious taking up a boilie. And the reason why we've been playing around with these is eventually we may think we might bring these to market, but we need to make sure that they are doing everything we want them to do. And personally, I'm sold. I don't really want to use boilies anymore. I use a bait boat, and I think these pellets just make such a difference in the way the carp will feed in that spot. So my main base of my bait that I've got out there is I have a load of crushed up boilies that I put through the grinder myself. To that I've added these pellets. I've also been pre-soaking some trigger baits. Look, I used to work off the theory that, you know, washed out baits were better because as the carp come in, they see them as safe because they've been out there for a while. I actually don't believe that now at all. You know, I mean, it was the theory at the time, and I just kind of blindly went, yeah, that sounds about right. It sounds like that could be a goer, so I'll go along with that. But now that I just think that washing out baits does two things. One, absorbs all the lake water and softens up the bait to a point that carp find it the most attractive. The softer the bait, the more they can crush it with their lips, the more they really, really enjoy eating it. The second thing it does is, as it's absorbing the water, all the active ingredients within the boilie start becoming active. It is the catalyst, that water ingress, that makes it come alive. Yeah, I just think it's a way the carp prefer to eat them. Now what I do is I put a bucket of water there, add my boilies, and then I'll add some maybe liquid in. It could be whatever I fancy. Personally, I put in some trigger activator, and I just put a little drizzle, not too much, into the water, scoop, whoosh it around, so that's all part of the absorption. Now, you will get some of the goodness of the soluble components of the boilie plus the liquid package seeping out into that water. Do not throw that water out. They sell on site here their feed pellet, which is, it's like a fish meal Copeland's pellet, something similar. So we bought a 20 kilo sack of that. They're 9mm, and I instantly took a bucket and scalded them with hot, you know, boiling hot water. Why scald them? Again, I want them breaking down instantly. I don't want it taking time out there. I want those fish to be able to come in and eat them, and they're soft already. What I've then done, I've added some of that into my mix of the scalded pellet, and I've also added my own trigger pellet, which is in 2mm, because I'm sticking with sort of a basic trigger base with BFM as well. I like adding the two together because for me, I think I'm getting the best of everything, and I know the owner had said that, you know, they really love their fish meals in here, so BFM is my base with trigger going through it to give it that kick. Then to it I'm adding some trigger solubles, some crumbed up, some squashed and some whole. To that then I've also then taken some of the pre-soaked boilies that have been soaking in a bucket for a while, and I'm just mushing them up into my hand and dropping them in, and a few whole ones as well. That's all mixed up into one big, it's quite a stodgy mix, but it's dry. And last but not least, we have the trigger bag mix. Now this stuff is really what makes this mix come alive. It's very active. I only need a small scoop of it. I don't need much, and I just let that work through, and then when it's all mixed together, what I go back to is the water from my boilies that I'm soaking. I just add that. The water that you're taking off from the soaked boilies is absolutely the creme de la creme. It's got all the leached off ingredients, soluble, insoluble, and it's got all the flavour and you know, bits and pieces that are going to again stimulate the carp. Rather than just dampen it down with any old thing, don't waste the water that your boilies are soaking in. It's probably some of the richest of waters you'll find for getting a carp going. And that's it. That's as much as I do. Now I've lost the light at this stage, so I'm going to stop waffling on. But we're having a great session. It's been a great social, and we're on day, what is it? It's Tuesday now. We obviously pack up on Saturday morning and bounce out of here. We've got to be gone by 10. But let's see what tonight brings and see what tomorrow has to give us carp-wise. But I'm sure our catching is not over yet. I feel confident we're going to get some more. There you go, another Nutrabaits muncher, and 39 on the nose. Keep coming from the same spots, but that's typical, isn't it? You get one or two rods at work and the other ones don't. But anyway, I'm doing this a bit solo, so I'm going to just pop her back now, and yeah, we'll have to wait and see what else the morning brings. Yep, fish on. The one thing about the fish in here is they fight like demons. You never know what size it's going to be until you get it in the net. And a lot of, you know, fish that we've said, oh, that's a small fish. Once it's in the net, you look in and you go, no, it's not. Because these fight like small males, all of them do. You know, they're the real sort of dump, 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 and then tearing off on long runs, and then just staying dogged all around, you know, the margins. One thing you can't do, you cannot do with these fish is try and bully them, because you will not win. It's just slow, steady pressure, tire them out. And some of the runs, I wouldn't rely on back winding, because they're so powerful and strong and fast, you probably won't keep up with it. Whereas at least with the clutch set looser, you can manage to sort them out. I was actually contemplating bringing in my rods and redoing them, because they've been out since yesterday evening. There's been nothing happening all morning, all day, and then in the middle of the day, well, I don't know, it's about probably 3 o'clock now, where the sun is at its highest, and it's after ripping off. Did send a drone up earlier on, and there were a couple of fish up there that I could see just cruising around, maybe about 5 or 6 fish in total. When I got here, there was definitely a lot more, and all last night we watched a show down this end in front of the lad swim, about 3/4 of the way across, and when I say they were porpoising and having fun, showing you where they were but not taking a bait, and they definitely have moved up. I've been sort of fishing very much the way I would at home. I'm fishing for a bite at a time. I'm not really giving them an awful lot of food. I think the spots I'm fishing are not really, you know, sort of what I would call feeding areas. It's more of an opportunistic munch for the fish. You're always worried about putting in too much because you can't take it out. But these are big fish, so technically the water's warming up a little bit. We've got 23, 24 degrees yesterday, it's about the same today. It's getting up to about 30 by the end of the week. Let's see if she's ready. No, no, no. Turn, in you come. Thank you. As they say in France, la boche. There she is in all her glory. As I say, 47.5 on a homemade Nutrabaits wafter, Nutrabaits ingredients, and a bit of a bruise with a fish. Coming over the same mix I've been using all week, not giving too much bait, but enough to get them having a feed. And there you go. Right, let's get her back. Let's talk about weather conditions, because I think it's important. Apart from spawning carp, which can always throw a spanner in the works when we're here, it's the end of April. we're going home on the May weekend, so you know it's a dodgy time of year to book. That said, a lot of other places all across France, UK, and even at home at Ireland, the carp have started spawning. We're just blessed that this hasn't been a lake that has done that. But when we arrived, the air pressure was quite low, about 1011, and we were getting a lot of rain. It then went shooting up to 1020. Now that's high pressure. It's not outrageously high, but it's high enough that I think it affects the fishing. Today has seen a change in the weather again. We've had a week of high pressure, blue skies, roasting hot, clear nights, and now today, Friday, the night before we leave, the clouds have rolled in and we now have an air pressure of 10, 13 and dropping. So now we're into good old solid low pressure, and that really means that the fish should go on the munch tonight. Could wake up with no fish. You know, sometimes sudden pressure changes, fish go off the feed, you know, even though it's favourable, rather than go on. But look, I don't know, my worry is that the carp are probably in here starting to think about spawning, and they may just not want to get their heads down in any great gusto. But we won't know until the morning. But we've got probably a solid chance that we may be lucky. We might get lucky. I'm just walking back now, away from my old swim. Having spent a week in it, I've really enjoyed it. But what we did this morning, well, it was yesterday actually, we moved all my rods down to the main area. There's a free bivvy yoke thingamajig, and so I've put myself in there for the night last night, and managed to put my rods straight back down again to my old spots, because with the RT7 and the GPS, just makes life a doddle. And then we managed to have a couple of fish last night from down there. The reason why I wanted to do that, we're away early doors tomorrow, Saturday morning. You have to be off the lake at 10. We hope to be gone by 9, purely because we've got a long drive up and we want to get ourselves settled up there and, you know, get ourselves organised with some food and whatever. Having the stuff all pushed down here and near the motor, ready to pack up, and it's given me a chance to start packing away all the extra stuff I don't need. And it means that I'm not hiking. It's not exactly far, but it's probably 35-40 yards in total all the way up there. It saves me having to lift everything down in the morning in the darkness and whatever, and will make my life a lot easier for the pack up. It's been an absolute blast. Would I recommend Secret Garden? 1,000,000%. It's not going to be for everyone. It is a big fish water. These fish know how to fight, and they also beat you up on the bank as well. And unless you're capable enough to hold on to and look after these fish, then maybe this would not be a water for you. I don't think this is an inexperienced carp angler's water. Between the three of us, over the week we managed 39 carp out of the total 100 carp residing in the lake. 250s, 1740s, 1730s and 320s. 41 and 5, I think, 41.5 it is. Last night, gasp. What a way to end a trip. Maybe there's more before the morning, but if not, I'm a very happy man. Here we go. 40, we don't really know the weight because we've got to weigh the sling now in a second, but it's a 43 pounder, something like that. I'll put an annotation in the bottom of this when I'm editing. But second double bubble of the day. First double bubble was in the dark, about 2 AM this morning. I had a screamer on my rod, and then as I'm playing it, the other rod went off. Rob managed to grab that one. I ended up with a 33 pound long mirror, absolutely gorgeous fish, and Rob ended up with a 47 pound
6, I think.
I think 47 pound 6 it was, yeah. Lovely common. So this one, as I say, is a low 40. I'll know the weight in a few minutes. And then we've got another one, that went off just as I was playing this one. Little common in the net. I don't know how big it is, but we're going to get this one back anyway. Okay, last fish of the trip for me, I think. I've got one rod left in the water. This is part of the double bubble that I had a few minutes ago. The weight of the other fish was 43.10. This one has gone 23.12. I've got my cameraman behind me just shouting quietly what it was because I can't remember. This one's got a bit of koi in it, I think. Lovely common, but wow, what an end to a trip. We're literally packing the cars to go. We're out of here very shortly, and this is how you end up from the secret garden. What a way to crash out. What an awesome week. The fishing should have been terrible. It's been epic. The fish should have been spawning. They've held off for us and shown no sign of it. Yeah, we couldn't have asked for more. Great company, great venue, great facilities, and the guy who owns the place is an absolute gentleman. So Secret Garden, we will be back. It probably will be another 3 years before it's free to book out, but I'll be a patient man until then. So you catch me here now in Saint-Marie-Église. This is the very famous site where the 101st Airborne, amongst other airborne troops, landed and rallied. Saint-Marie-Église became really famous for the fact that a paratrooper got hung up on the church tower and was left there hanging there for 3 days, and for 3 days the bells rang whilst fighting in the courtyard down below ensued, and he went deaf, got shot in the foot, but survived to tell a tale. He came here to go fishing, and a bonus was a little bit of sightseeing, and it had to be World War II sightseeing because it's all of our group. We're all mad into that period and quite knowledgeable on it. And our first port of call was we went fishing, and then on the way home we decided we'd give ourselves extra time to do just this, come here and see the actual sites that I've read about for years and years and years. Our first port of call this morning was we went to the Normandy American cemetery, and it's right on the beach of Omaha, and I have to be honest with you, I tried to film a little piece there and it just choked me up. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get the words out, and when you see how many young men fell there and how many lives were lost on that first few hours of the beach front being taken on Omaha, something like 3,000 men died in the first couple of hours. It's just shocking, and it's, you know, if you're a family man, if you're a father, you have children, if you have sons, it does kind of really put it into perspective. What a loss, and what stupidity of a few people, a few men in particular, can do to the world, and we haven't learned. It hasn't got any better. But that said, we visited the cemetery, paid our respects, then we went to Omaha Beach itself to give ourselves some scale of what the landing days must have been, and that again, to stand actually on the actual sand of the beach when those lads fought bravely. But an incredible place. It's been an incredible trip, and this last bit, to be honest with you, has been for me the icing on an exceptionally big cake. We've had a brilliant week's fishing and a very humbling end to what has been an awesome trip. So this is Gerry signing off until my next adventure, and we'll see you soon.